Look at this chart here for SoFi. I mean, it's another stock we've been buying for quite some time now, and we are finally being rewarded big time for all those buys. So the question becomes, are we at the beginning stages of a huge, epic run like Palantir and Nvidia just went on, with kind of the close or potential close of the student loan moratorium finally ending? Or is this something completely different altogether and we're just in for another disappointment with SoFi? Let's talk about all that today, right after you gently tap that like button and consider subscribing too. It's super easy to do if you like the truth without the hype. Now, I've heard a lot of people talking about not having time to get into a position, build out a position. Basically, you just get ready to do it and just bang, all of a sudden the stock just like rockets up on you and you were just like right there on the edge of buying, and it just ran away from you. Now, I understand that completely, and it completely sucks when that happens. But in the case of SoFi, some folks actually fell into the trap of watching the price action. So essentially, obviously, I don't think it's you guys out there, a lot of you guys out there if you follow this channel, but a lot of folks kind of fell into that trap of, hey, they have no interest in looking into a stock, doing due diligence on a stock or anything else with a stock when it's in the dumpster, right? When it's going down, it's just beaten down every day. Wall Street just, isn't letting it go. It's just completely in the dumpster. That's kind of when people don't really want to look into it. And then all of a sudden it goes on a nice run up, and all of a sudden there's all this positive news and these positive articles and these upgrades and everything else. And now everybody's kind of scrambling to jump in on that stock and see what the heck's going on. And now they want to put in the work and do the due diligence if I can talk. Anyways, they want to do the due diligence to actually figure out, do they want to own this stock or not, and to make a decision on buying that stock or not. As a long-term buy and hold investor, regardless of what your cash, position is, the amount of money you have to invest, regardless of your knowledge in regards to doing due diligence or anything else like that, the situation we just had with SoFi is the perfect time if you don't fall for that price action narrative and not let the price action dictate your plan and what you're doing, because basically, during a time like with SoFi, you had 9 months to, pull together some cash, get everything kind of in order there, kind of build up that cash position. You're right. You might not have built it up, as huge as you wanted it or anything else like that. Understand that completely, but you had time to do that. And you had a lot of time to actually dig into the stock, figure out what is the business. So that way you understand what you own. Do evaluation so you know, hey, is this stock actually undervalued or not? Is there significant problems? Is the kind of media narrative or the news narrative or whatever the heck the narrative is out there, is it actually true? Or is it actually just Wall Street being stupid Wall Street once again, which, as we've seen, at the beginning of this year so far, they got incredibly dumb in 2022 and, basically look stupid now, basically coming into 2023 as some of these stocks have run huge and they're things that we were seeing all along. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make with this here in regards to not letting price action dictate your, not only whether you buy or not. I understand that, sometimes price action may dictate, obviously, if SoFi was at 25 today, I wouldn't be buying the stock. I wouldn't even be considering the stock. I'd say it was overvalued, but when it's down in the fours, to me, it was significantly undervalued and I should be buying that stock at that stage. So I understand that right there being important, but a lot of folks then take, because it's not at a price that interests them or the fear narrative is scaring them, now they don't do all the other steps to dig in, to put in the work to kind of see, is there an opportunity there or not? Now, when it's going to pay off is also something people try to figure out. We don't know that. We don't know when SoFi is actually going to pay off and the long-term thesis for SoFi is actually going to play out. But I know a lot of times that price action in the first place, when it's down, a lot of folks don't want to do the work. When it's up, everybody's all of a sudden scrambling to do the work to see if they want it or not. And of course, when you're rushed, we all know exactly what happens, right? We make mistakes. I've done it before. I'm sure some of you guys out there have done it before. We've all done it for the most part if you've been investing for any length of time. So we've all been there and done that, but it's definitely something I wanted to address right here with SoFi, because here's the reality with SoFi over the past 9 months. Myself personally, now I can't speak to everybody out there, but for myself personally, I was able to add shares of SoFi in the fours in September. I was able to add those same amount of shares in the fours in October. I was able to do the same thing in the fours in November and the same thing in December again, buying again in the fours. And then I kind of, went on like a 3-month moratorium because I bought so much Tesla at the beginning of January. I was basically out of cash and basically for the end of the year there, because the deals were so good across a lot of stocks, I needed to kind of replenish my cash stack there. But right again there in March, I was able to add in the fives again. I think it was low fives. For SoFi. And then again in May, I was able to add at the beginning of May in the fours. And just 2 weeks ago, I was able to add again in the fours before it just had this huge run up now to where we're, basically in the sixes, looking like we're going to hit the seven. And yes, you would have seen all those buys in real time, along with all the stocks that I'm buying in real time right now, if you were a member of the Market Insiders private group, where I extended the Memorial Day sale until this weekend, because a lot of you guys asked for it, and I heard you, so hey, we'll just go ahead and extend it here through this weekend. Make sure you get your spot down there. So make sure you jump on that now, because I got to raise the price when the stock analyzer comes out, and that is going to be free to members to use. So check out the pinned comment down there and see if a membership's right for you. But I got it, guys. Nobody wants to talk about the past. We all know exactly what happened. Let's talk about what's going on right now. I mean, is SoFi finally going to get the due that it deserves? I mean, is Wall Street finally going to reward it for great performance? It's a struggle today, guys. I apologize. Anyways, the point being, is Wall Street finally going to reward SoFi for great performance quarter after quarter after quarter? Basically, is it going to get its just due, and are we on the start of a next really kind of bull run cycle for this stock? Well, my answer, honestly, is not going to make everyone happy. I'm sorry, guys. You guys come here for the truth without the hype, and that's exactly what you're going to get. So before you go jumping blindly onto the rocket ship that is SoFi here, there are 4 things that you absolutely need to consider before jumping on this rocket ship, if it indeed is a rocket ship. And then I'll also kind of give you the other side, that there are 2 massive things that I haven't heard anybody talk about personally. Now, you guys may watch a lot more YouTube than I do, may watch a lot more news media than I do, but it's an angle that I'm not sure that a lot of folks are having you out there considering that may actually, turn this from just a short-term, pump and dump per se, into actual long-term trend there. So we'll discuss those 2. So the first point is that we're 60 days at a minimum from anything actually taking place for there actually to be anything in regards to SoFi, in regards to revenue coming in, something actually happening here. That's kind of part of the bill there. So it's not like this happens and then all of a sudden tomorrow, all this volume and all these, student loans are all going to refinance and everything else just flowing into SoFi there. It looks like it's at least 60 days away. And then we'll see from there, because there are some other caveats and such that I've heard discussed that could potentially move things forward. Again, I don't want to speculate, so I don't really want to put those out there. I'm sure you guys have read it too. But in regards to SoFi's business, just kind of keep that 60-day mark in mind, that it's not going to happen immediately. We're looking at 60 days at a minimum before things just start to flow in, much less actually, filter its way down to the bottom line for SoFi. And again, remember, we're dealing with Wall Street, which means, are they really concerned about anything that's going to happen, 6 months from now? Not really, at least not in my mind. They're worried about what's going to happen next week, next month, maybe next quarter. That may be the furthest that they look out there. So the fact that it's not something that's immediate, obviously in regards to momentum, the momentum right now is on the upside. But then when that momentum kind of needs to continue on, they're not interested in waiting another quarter, another 2 quarters for that to actually hit. So, at that stage, that's not exactly working in our favor. Now, the second point is, honestly, just because the moratorium ends doesn't mean everybody's going to run to refinance their loans or move everything to SoFi. I got it. The business was totally different prior to this whole moratorium thing going down and all that sort of stuff. I got it. But they have significantly and successfully shifted the business into something completely different altogether and not focusing on those student loans. Now, it doesn't mean that that piece of the business is gone or it can't ramp back up or anything else like that at all. I'm not saying that at all. I absolutely think they will be prepared for that time frame. But you got to keep in mind that that doesn't necessarily mean just because the moratorium ends that all of a sudden all this business and all this refinancing is just going to flood in like it was before. Those sort of things kind of take time for the wheels to churn and for things to kind of move forward. And more importantly, they've shifted their business in a direction to where, what's the impact there? What exactly is going to happen? And the honest answer is, we don't know yet. And that's a big, I won't call it necessarily a negative, but it's a big unknown that's out there that we absolutely have to account for, because it's basically been on hold for the past few years. I mean, when you're trying to restart something that's been on hold for the past few years, there can be some hiccups along the way. And so I expect there to be some hiccups as they kind of get this process starting and get everything moving in the right direction, which of course means in the short term, that's going to work against the stock price. The third thing that you absolutely need to consider is that even if people want to refinance, the moratorium is completely gone and we're past that 60-day period and all those sort of things like that, and people want to refinance, the question becomes, what if your rate right now is actually better than the rate that SoFi can offer to refinance it into? I mean, remember when all this stuff happened, we were near zero. The last time. So there's a lot of folks carrying a lot lower interest loans. I don't know what the number is. We'll have to wait and see what that number is. But I suspect that there's a good number of borrowers out there to where the rate today in regards to what you can get in regards to a refinance is not as sweet as it was a couple years ago. Now, maybe so. That would be great. That would be awesome. I understand that there's also just the revenue piece of just those payments being paused and now those payments coming back in. Remember, SoFi's also grown a lot more in between then and now, so it's not going to make up the near amount of business that it was before. But I know that refinance, that new money coming in, may not come in as quickly as a lot of the bulls out there are saying, because I'm not sure I would refinance if I had a much lower rate, from a few years ago than what I had right now. Now, you're right. There's some folks that didn't refinance when those rates were great. Understand that completely as well. But, kind of when I'm looking at the bigger landscape there and I'm kind of looking at it as a whole, I'd say, man, when was the last time rates were around 5? It's been a lot of years since then, since the Fed funds rate has been at that rate. So in regards to the rates being competitive right now, I just don't think they're going to be all that competitive for refinance. So it may not make sense for a consumer to refinance their loans in the coming years, or at least until the Fed starts lowering the rate again, So that's definitely something right there you absolutely have to consider when you're making your projections or when you're looking at really bullish projections, especially on a refinance piece. Well, I mean, heck, if you got a lower rate, you're not refinancing into a higher rate just because SoFi is awesome. It's just not what you're doing, guys. I'd love for it to be that way. That would be awesome. That's not the reality in the end. And the fourth thing to consider would be that SoFi is still a unprofitable, small to mid-tier size bank. And right now that is completely out of favor with Wall Street. And what I mean by that is any sort of a run and a small to medium bank right now, who's buying those shares when those traders eventually decide to quit riding the momentum and sell off? I don't know. Large investors right now may not be stepping in to buy shares of an unprofitable bank of a small to a medium size. Right now, that is just that sector and that play is out of favor right now. And that obviously may lend itself to you not having the buyer stepping in to take away from the traders as they sell and they take their profits to maintain that higher price point up to that next level. Now, maybe they do, but just kind of looking at the landscape right now, for me, it seems very, very realistic. It wasn't fair for SoFi to be lumped in with all the SVB mess and all the other messes that kind of came from all that sort of stuff. I don't think they're in any sort of danger. But that doesn't mean that those large institutions are willing to jump out there and take that risk just yet and take away those shares from those traders who are trading them down. So that's another thing to consider. How are those large investors going to react to a small, non-profitable bank, basically having a nice run up and then somehow justifying that price because the student loan moratorium went away, and then those large institutional investors stepping in and buying up those shares from those traders? I don't know if we're quite there yet. I would love for it to be, but it's absolutely something you need to consider as we move forward. Because if they don't, it's possible we could see that number fall right back into the 5s again. But guys, I am not concerned with that at all. Not any of those 4. I'm absolutely considering them. I'm actually taking them into kind of like my mental calculus on what I need to prepare myself for mentally, so that way I'm ready to take advantage of whatever happens. But I'm not really concerned with it at all for basically the 2 reasons that we're getting ready to discuss. And the first one is they already successfully shifted the business. For me, in regards to my long-term thesis with SoFi, I don't include the student loan thing at all. I basically have that as just basically like a cherry on top, something extra. So if it doesn't happen in the next quarter or the next 2 quarters, and it's 6 months from now, it's a year from now, it's 2 years from now, whenever the Fed finally lowers rates and everything kind of, gets unstuck and everything kind of is flowing normal again, and SoFi's out there doing great things, it's a huge cherry on top, but it's not something I'm using to calculate into my formula right now. So for me, this is just bonus stuff. This whole talk of student loan, everything is just a bonus. Hey, look, it finally went our way, but SoFi's been performing underneath without any of that. So to me, that's just the cherry on top. And second, there absolutely is a way that SoFi can continue this momentum. And that is simply if management comes out on an earnings call or the next earnings call and gives us basically they adjust guidance up, basically just like NVIDIA did. Hey, all of a sudden, this is what we're projecting forward. And obviously, that increase in business, hey, we're going to see, more student loan refis. This is going to be the impact on our business from this moratorium going away. If they're willing to put that out in formal guidance on an earnings call, that is going to be a huge catalyst for the stock. Now, I'm not talking about a small increase in guidance here. I'm talking about a large increase in guidance, due to basically, more refinancing activity or, the interest finally being able to come in on some, whatever the case is. The point being, if they move or they give us a significant increase in guidance, in terms of revenue, EPS or, getting that EPS closer to profitability, or basically, I should have said that to begin with, or basically a move, closer to profitability. Essentially, hey, we're going to be able to get profitable a little bit faster here because of this, loan moratorium finally going away. That is going to be huge for SoFi. And that could be enough to actually, I won't say maintain the run completely, but absolutely keep it going and have us, keep us from falling back down into the 4s again. Now, again, nothing's guaranteed in the stock market. You guys know that. That's absolutely why you got to plan ahead of it. I'm not betting on any of that sort of stuff. I wasn't waiting for management to give me a signal like that. I wasn't waiting for the government to figure out what the heck they're going to do with all the student loan madness and all the craziness around it and all the political theatrics around it and everything else. I'm not waiting on any of that sort of stuff. I'm just going to continue to buy undervalued shares for as long as I can, as long as the company continues to perform as a business underneath all that noise and all that other stuff, because I know eventually I will be rewarded. So whether I'm rewarded in next quarter, if management gives us out, whether they decide to reward us next year, 2 years from now, it doesn't matter to me, because over the long run, this is a very, very early stage of a company that has a lot of growth potential moving forward, 3 to 5 years from now. That's kind of my time frame that I'm looking at, and I think the opportunity is huge for SoFi at that stage. So in the meantime, if we're flat for a year or more, hey, that's okay. Happens to all the best of them, right? Tesla flat for 6 years, or flat or down for 6 years. Apple flat or down for 6 months to a year plus, during the greatest bull market of all time. So SoFi being down for me personally for more than a year and a half, whatever the heck the timeline ends up being before it finally goes on a run, that was just opportunity right there. Even for those folks that may have missed the 4s the first 9 months, hey, that's okay. Maybe we get a chance to buy in the 5s or 6s. Does it really matter if it's really a $15 stock, $20 stock over the long run? I'm not sure you'd be too sad if you bought, in the 5s and the 6s, whatever the case was, and eventually it turned into a $15 stock in 2 years, we'll say, 3 years per se. That's a pretty good return on your money there in between that time, and just get that hype 2020, 2021 rally where you were getting that in a week, and if you didn't get that in a week, you sucked as an investor. Yeah, that's not realistic, guys. That's a once in a blue moon type event at the very tippy top of a very the longest bull market in history. That's what we got, was areas like that. In regards to normal markets and normal times, that is a great return during normal times, and I'm going to be very, very happy to do that. So regardless of what Wall Street tends to do, they want to run it up. Hey, we've been buying shares the whole time. If they want to beat it back down again and allow us to build out even bigger positions, that's all right too. That's a win for me as well. And that's exactly how you build up your portfolios and how you position yourself, to where no matter what Wall Street does, you're in a win-win situation. And remember, if you want to see all my buys in real time, see my watch list complete with price targets, take 5 courses completely for free, basically get to hang out with me in our Discord. You can slide into my DMs. You can jump on the live Q&As. I release 3 to 5 exclusive videos every single week for you guys to do, in addition to what's here on YouTube. Obviously, they're much more in depth. They cover much more educational type subjects than in here. And you can also get that stock analyzer tool that is coming. It's going to be completely free for members. And guys, I got to raise the price whenever that time comes. So if you lock in your rate right now, you get to keep it for life as long as you're a member, and you don't have to pay that, raised price up there. So hey, that's great news for you. So make sure you check out the pinned comment down there. See if you want to take advantage of the sale and see if a membership's right for you. And click this video here to see the stocks that I'm currently buying, and click here to see my exact plan during this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.